breast surgeon who butchered and betrayed patients is convicted of intentionally wounding them. Ian Patterson was found guilty on 17 counts, but his tally of victims may run into the hundreds.
You can accept it if you think you're having it for a reason, but when you're told that you didn't need any of it, then what type of person does that to you?
Also on the programme, police say they foiled an active terror plot, shooting one woman and arresting others in a North London suburb. A friend of the Whitehall terror suspect tells us about his former schoolmate. Vauxhall's car fires. A damning report says the firm was reckless. And the little boy's drawing that told his mum and doctors he had a brain tumour.
This is the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart.
Good evening. Breast surgeon Ian Patterson, who lied to patients about life-threatening cancers, has been convicted of intentionally wounding them with unnecessary operations. For money and perhaps for power, the court heard he butchered women and men in his care. They said they felt betrayed, that he had ruined their lives by a man, they said, who played God with his disgusting crimes. But the total number of his victims may run into the hundreds, as Ben Chapman reports.
Like all doctors, he swore an oath to do no harm, but Ian Patterson used his surgeon's knife as a weapon.
Ian Patterson guilty on 20 counts, sentence adjourned.
Guilty of deliberately harming 10 of his patients, there was relief for some of the hundreds more who claimed they too were given surgery they didn't need.
This is such a wonderful result. We couldn't have asked for anything better.
Finally, justice has been done for all the hundreds of people that have been affected by Mr. Patterson.
For nearly 2 decades, Ian Patterson was trusted by the women in his care.
There's dark moments, I think, for all ladies who are diagnosed as having breast cancer.
He spoke to ITV News 20 years ago at the launch of a breast cancer support group.
There is life after this diagnosis. They get their life back.
But in many cases, he was inventing that diagnosis and ruining lives, lying to patients at 2 private hospitals, saying they had breast cancer when they didn't. Frances Perks was one of those women. She never had cancer, but Patterson gave her a mastectomy, one of 9 operations she was later told were completely unnecessary.
I couldn't then, and I still can't now, get my head around it, that I had all that for nothing. You can accept it if you think you're having it for a reason, but when you're told that you didn't need any of it, then what type of person does that to you?
His motive may have been financial. He was being paid for every operation. But many of his patients believe he simply enjoyed playing God, telling them they had this disease, but that he could fix them. And the allegations go well beyond the criminal trial. At least 400 of Patterson's private patients are now suing him after being told their surgery was unnecessary. And in the NHS, nearly 700 patients were recalled after incomplete surgery put them at risk of their cancer returning. In all, more than 1,000 patients may have been victims of his malpractice.
They went to him believing he was one of the best surgeons and they were in the best hands and he was going to make them better and they were receiving the best care, and they went really to a butcher.
Ian Patterson left court by the back door this afternoon. His patients say no sentence can match the suffering he caused, but this disgraced surgeon was told to expect to go to prison when he returns here next month.
Ben, how was Ian Patterson able to carry out operations for so long?
Well, the offences he's been convicted of here, the operations carried on through to 2011, but concerns about Ian Patterson were first raised by his colleagues 8 years earlier, back in 2003. Two independent reports into both the NHS Trust where he worked and Spire Healthcare, the private hospital company, found that a number of opportunities had been missed to stop him. Complaints weren't taken seriously enough. He wasn't properly monitored. Now, both say they've since learned the lessons and they've apologised unreservedly to his patients, but certainly many of the 400 or so who are now suing Ian Patterson believe the NHS and the private hospitals should share some of the blame for what, certainly in terms of numbers, is one of the biggest hospital scandals we've seen.
Ben, thank you. Detectives say they have foiled a second active terror plot in as many days after raids in London and Kent. 6 people were arrested, including a woman who was shot by police and is in hospital. Police say it is not connected to the attempted attack near Parliament yesterday. Our Security editor Rohit Katru with the latest.
An arrest is made for suspected terrorism in Britain almost every day. But rarely do they sound or look like this. Northwest London yesterday. A woman led away. Officers armed. CS gas sprayed. Another woman was shot and was treated on the street outside.
After about 10 minutes, we had some really serious screaming from a lady. So we thought maybe she was being arrested or something, but we didn't see her or nothing. After that, it just went quiet.
3 people were arrested here. One of them, a 16-year-old boy. Then, nearby, another woman arrested. One of 2 detained here. She was dragged from the street and later taken into custody.
All we could see basically is that the bus, obviously the police ran onto the bus, they got hold of the lady. She was on there for quite a while, to be quite honest, before they had actually taken her off the bus. They took her off the bus and bundled her just over there.
The scale and the nature of this police operation suggests they believed the plot was serious, imminent, or perhaps both. A senior Scotland Yard detective was asked whether they'd foiled the plot. His response, unusually direct.
Was this an active plot that you foiled?
Yes.
Can you expand on the plot in any way at all?
No, again, this is a live investigation. We have people in custody under arrest.
And all this hours after the arrest of a man in Whitehall, a lone suspect. But it seems to be a network being investigated in northwest London. 2 attacks possibly foiled on what police called an extraordinary day in London. Rohit Katru, ITV News.
And the man arrested in Whitehall over the suspected terror plot was identified today as 27-year-old Mohammed Khalid Omar Ali. He's believed to be a British national who was born overseas and went to school in North London. And a friend and former classmate has told ITV News that Ali was a smart and well-liked student, but gradually his attitudes changed. Paul Davis reports.
This is the image that's been seen across the country and across the world. A young man we now know was brought up in North London, being arrested by anti-terror police just yards from Parliament, with a number of knives found nearby. School friends of Mohammed Khalid Omar Ali saw that image too and were stunned.
Did you know it was him straight away?
As soon as I saw the picture, I knew, my heart sank and I knew exactly who it was.
Makayu Mason still has the school leavers jumper signed by the friend he knew as Khalid.
Good luck, bro, love Khalid.
And that's his signature?
That's him. At school, he was a very popular person. He was very charismatic. Everybody genuinely really liked him, and he was super smart. He was really, really smart. He was in the high subjects with me in most of our joint sessions at school.
From 2001 to 2006, the man arrested yesterday was a pupil at this school. Friends from his time at this school say Khalid Ali was always religious, but as he became older, his beliefs and the opinions he expressed became more rigid.
his attitude to religion was definitely changed, and you could see the last conversation I had with him when we were 18 was he was going back home for a longer period of time because he'd given up on life in London, from what he had told me, opportunities and so forth, and he just wanted to concentrate on what he felt was right, and that was dedicating himself to his religion.
Today in Tottenham, police have been searching a house believed to be the home of relatives of Khalid Ali, while the 27-year-old, described today as one of the most popular students at his school, remains in custody on suspicion of preparing an act of terrorism. Paul Davis, ITV News, North London.
And to pull it together, our security editor, Rohit Kachru, joins me live. So, police say 2 significant terror plots cracked in 2 days.
Absolutely, in the space of just a few hours, and they really show us the growing number of threats that are faced here in the UK, but also the widening spectrum from which they come. We spend a lot of time at this desk, Alistair, talking about so-called lone wolf attackers, the sort of terrorists we saw in Westminster Bridge a month ago, in Paris 1 week ago. But it appears now that Scotland Yard are investigating a suspected network. This is more traditional terrorism. It is more detectable. It is more dangerous as well. But it does show how busy counter-terrorism command is at the moment. But hidden in the detail of that Whitehall case is another key plank of Britain's counter-terrorism network. The tip-off from the Whitehall suspects investigation came from a family member, and they, of course, are an important and irreplaceable part of the counter-terrorism effort.
Rohit, thank you. Now, a jump in living costs prompting a fall in the amount that we're spending has seen UK economic growth slow down by more than expected. The rise in UK GDP for the first 3 months of 2017 was just 0.3%, and that is down from 0.7% in the last quarter of 2016, and indeed slower than the Bank of England's own prediction of 0.4%. UKIP's general election campaign got off to a bad start today, with anti-racism demonstrators disrupting its official launch. And once the protest was cleared, there were awkward questions for its leader, Paul Nuttall, over his party's direction and relevance. Well, our correspondent, Angus Walker, joins me live now from Westminster. Not quite what the party had in mind, Angus.
Yes, a small group of protesters got inside the venue where party leader Paul Nuttall was about to launch the party's general election campaign. They shouted things like, UKIP is a nasty, racist party. Now, Paul Nuttall, of course, denies that his party is Islamophobic or racist, but he is also having to deny that his party is irrelevant, saying he still has a role to play battling for Brexit. But I put it to him that he's not standing in as many seats, or the party's not standing in as many seats as they did in 2015, and in some seats they're going to stand aside in favour of a Brexit MP with a slim majority.
So you're the only party leader in this election actively telling your supporters to vote for another party?
Well, in certain seats, isn't that wonderful? That you've got a party leader who's prepared to put country above party.
I just wonder what message that sends, though.
Well, it sends that we want to ensure that people get the Brexit.
Yes, but the message you're sending is don't vote UKIP, vote for another party.
These will be seats, okay, which will be marginals, whereby you have a Brexit MP sitting on a slender majority.
And Paul Nuttall says he'll announce where he's standing tomorrow.
Angus, thank you. Still to come on the ITV Evening News, Vauxhall's car fires, the mum who took on the company, and the little boy whose drawing helped doctors diagnose his illness. That and more after the break. Welcome back. Vauxhall's been accused of a reckless disregard for safety, knowing its Zafiras could catch fire at any time. As ITV News first reported 2 years ago, more than 200,000 of the vehicles were recalled over the fault. But senior MPs say the company was too slow to act, and now customers want the company prosecuted over its failures, as our consumer editor Chris Choi reports.
These pictures of haunted Vauxhall today came words equally damning. An influential group of MPs gave new support to what many owners have been saying for years. This mum from Plymouth was driving with her children.
There was black smoke coming through the vents. We quickly got the kids out the car,
called the fire brigade and the car was engulfed in flames within minutes. I would like to see that the Driving and Vehicle Standards Agency get more power to be able to prosecute companies like Vauxhall for the things that they've put these customers through.
MPs say Vauxhall was too slow to begin a full investigation, that the motor industry should improve reporting of defects, and that officials should get new enforcement powers to hold vehicle manufacturers to account. Vauxhall say there have been 287 fires with the Zafira B model, but can't confirm all were the same fault. Campaigners claim there have been more incidents. This is the MP who chairs the Commons Transport Committee. Many owners say Parliament hasn't done enough to regulate vehicle recalls.
What Vauxhall will say is that they've always acted within the rules. Doesn't that show that you lot in Parliament have got the rules wrong?
Vauxhall have shown a reckless disregard for drivers' safety. They were too slow to recognise there was a problem. The officials need more support. They need more powers.
Vauxhall says safety is its top priority, that it's learned, changed and improved as a result of the fires that have engulfed its vehicles and its reputation. Chris Choi, ITV News.
US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's told the UN Security Council the world must act over North Korea as the threat of an attack is very real. His comments come amid growing tensions between the countries. Tonight, China echoed calls for the rogue state to stop its nuclear activities. Now, this week, we've been hearing the views of different groups of voters across the country. Tonight, we speak to senior citizens whose vote could prove crucial in June. Geraint Vincent went to the town of Eastbourne on the south coast, where residents have the highest average age in the country. He heard what matters to older voters there.
The pace of life in Eastbourne can be quite sedate. But don't be fooled. The competition for votes in this town will be fierce. The Tories have a majority here of just 700.
Beautiful, Joe, beautiful.
And while everyone we spoke to at the Parade Bowling Club is planning to cast a vote, the candidates will have to work hard to get them.
I think people are just fed up with politicians. I mean, so there's loads and loads of people that don't vote because they don't know who to believe.
Cuts to public spending mean that this workshop, aimed at combating loneliness among elderly men, can't open as much as it used to. It's now run by a charity. David Gambrill is one of its newest members. He's worried that even if the parties keep their promises about not cutting pensions, that might not be enough.
I mean, the triple lock probably sounds a lot, you know, with a maximum of 2.5%, which probably is in compared to other industries. But 2.5% on a low base isn't, in capital terms, very much money extra.
And among a generation which remembers the very worst of times in Europe, there's impatience and some optimism about another new era.
The most important issue is that we complete the Brexit deal. I didn't vote for it, but now we're on that road. There's no turning back, is there? So that's what we've got to do.
This is a group of voters who grew up in a time when making the best of things was the only option. Today's political leaders will have to convince them that they can do the same. Geraint Vincent, ITV News, Eastbourne.
And finally tonight, how a 7-year-old boy used a toy to diagnose a life-threatening condition. Little Emre was suffering from painful headaches, which doctors said were migraines. But when he used an electronic sketch pad to pinpoint the pain, it led him to being diagnosed with a brain tumour. Emre told Martha Fairley how he did it.
And then I drew a big head for me, some legs like this, and a smiley face, and then my lump in my head. And then she said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's my headache."
It was a simple sketch on a child's toy, but the picture Emre Erol Karoglu drew of the headaches plaguing his life helped his mum persuade doctors he was seriously ill.
I thought for him to draw it was quite prominent. I took a photograph of it and took it straight back to the doctors and highlighted my concerns again. He was becoming quite angry, massive behaviour change, having quite awful moments in the house where he was having rages, which was very unlike him, vomiting in the night.
Urged on by the picture and online advice from the HeadSmart campaign, Tiffany asked for another scan. Doctors found a cystic tumour which can't be removed but can be treated.
So what kind of a change have you seen in Emre since the diagnosis?
It was almost overnight. It was a change overnight. He's not as angry. His concentration's better at school. It was life-changing, it really was. He's a different child.
And now Emre's a picture of health. His headaches finally erased. Martha Fairley, ITV News.
Magnetic, not electronic, as Emre well knows. I'll be back at 10. Till then, very good evening to you.